We're going to start now. Thanks for doing this. I know that we've been talking for a while for you to come on the podcast, but at that time when we were speaking, I had already all the episodes recorded that went up to the election, so I thought you'd be great to have on this segment. So thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for the invitation to take part in this.
I got to be careful because this is one hell of a busy riding that you have, so I don't want to end your campaign short.
It's also, rush hour.
It is rush hour.
So.
It's okay. We'll be extra careful. Let's go back to 2017. It was a huge year for you. The riding opened up after longtime MP Stéphane Dion was reassigned as ambassador. So there was an open nomination over here. You came completely under the radar, surprised everyone. And picked up this nomination. Tell me about that whole experience for you.
Well, it was probably one of the most intense experiences of my life. I was teaching full-time at the time at Rosemont High School. I was teaching French, geography, and history, as well as ethics. And one day I get this text message from my friend George in Toronto. And he sends me, "So who's your campaign manager?" And I had no idea what he was talking about because I was teaching that day. And so I continued. I answered a quick, "No, I'm putting politics on the back burner because I want to finish my master's. I want to, move up in education." And so I went home that day. I put on the news and I saw that Stéphane Dion had been, taken out of cabinet and that he was considering resigning. So I realized quickly what my friend George meant when he asked that question. Because I had always told him and all of my friends who were involved in politics that one day I would run for office, and I told them that I would only do so once Stéphane Dion retired.
Yeah.
And so this all kind of, came at a certain point, and I took 2 days to think about it. Because at first I thought of it as a joke. I thought it was funny, but then I kind of considered the idea, and I decided to speak to my parents about it first. So I spoke to them. My dad was like, "What are you saying? It's gonna,
Why?
You're gonna make a fool out of yourself
No,
because you've been out of the loop for a while. Like You're very involved in teaching right now and doing your masters, and if you don't know more than the other candidates, plus we don't know who's gonna run. Like you probably have no chance." I've always said though, I know a lot of people in Saint-Laurent that I knew that if I tried, I could probably do it.
Yeah.
So I told him, "Look, I don't know if that's the case. Like, it doesn't take much for me to get back in the loop, and as long as I'm doing it for the right reasons, I can probably convince people to come out and support me."
Mm-hmm.
So that was what I was doing. I started signing up my members. I started with my closest relatives and friends, and I moved further into my other circles.
Yeah.
By the end of 3 weeks, I had already registered 400 members.
Wow.
And we had no idea if there would even be open nominations at the time because they were saying that they could possibly be parachuting someone in. So I just
Which would make sense, right? In a riding like this, that is considered, let's say safe.
And it was out of the blue, right? So it was definitely something but I didn't let myself stop.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't let that demotivate me, I just continued. And I told myself, look, whatever, I'm having fun with this anyways. I might as well continue and see where it leads. It's not like I was out of work. I was working full time, but I was going to put a lot of effort into this. And so after a 6-week period, I had accumulated 1,000 members, which is pretty good.
That's fantastic.
Out of, I think, 5,000. So everybody, all of the candidates had accumulated a total of 5,000, and one of those thousands were mine.
Yeah.
And that's it. I brought the vote out. I made sure that my people came and supported on the day of.
For sure.
We used different methods to do that, but
tell me about learning, dealing and learning with all the pressure of mobilizing on such a short time frame.
I work very well under pressure.
Yeah.
More than anything, and so I knew I had a team of people who did believe in me and who wanted to help me out. And it was also a matter of prioritizing, right? So up until the moment that I was no longer allowed to sign up people, I knew we're signing up people till the very last second because we want to have a big enough base of people who can come out. And then we found out 3 days before the nomination that there was going to be the nomination on the Wednesday.
Right.
So we found out Sunday that this Wednesday is the nomination. Luckily, everybody receives an email,
Yeah.
but a lot of these people were older and they didn't have email addresses. So we needed to make sure we
Communicate
called.
the information, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, see, this is the funny thing, that as soon as all this is over, you're right back at it, just at a larger scale now, right? It's not only convincing your own members to come and support you, but you got to go after the entire population.
Yeah, exactly. I think it helped the fact that it was like a huge news story, the fact that media had not picked up on me at all.
Yeah,
I was
know.
actually complaining to them, saying, you're lying. There are 3 greenlit candidates, not just 2.
Yeah.
I'm one of them. And they completely ignored me.
It's funny that you mentioned it, because we knew each other obviously from before.
Yeah.
You know, I had you on Facebook and I was following what you were doing, and I knew almost immediately when you jumped into the race. And it's funny because I noticed the exact same thing. Everybody was talking about the other 2 candidates, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
What happened? She stepped down? Like, I don't understand. Like, there's something going on here. But it must have felt nice, the fact that you were the underdog, and you don't see that very often. And again, especially in ridings like this, where they're considered safe ridings, where, you know, usually the party puts the people that they kind of want.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the underdog came out on top is quite spectacular.
I think it sends a message to young people and to people in general who, you know, are not necessarily handpicked.
Yeah.
That nothing is impossible if you really want it and if you work hard.
Yeah.
And so that's a message that I'm proud to have been a part of, and that I hope to send to everybody who's in that kind of position.
Awesome. So you came in the middle of the mandate in 2017. Tell me about that first mandate. Like, aside from, you know, the challenges of, you know, learning how to be a politician and getting around, understanding, you know, the workings of government and parliament and all that kind of stuff, which comes with every, you know, quote unquote rookie. What were some of your challenges going into, you know, starting this new life?
Yeah. Well, I guess first off, it doesn't help that I was new completely when everyone else already had 2 years of experience. At least everyone else, they were new all at the same time, and so they had the same trainings and they were able to learn together. So I was kind of thrown into it, and it was definitely a steep learning curve, figuring out what exactly my role was on committees, figuring out, you know, how the debate process was going to work in Ottawa, and how to best represent my people, who to speak to if I needed to get out there and share the thoughts and voices of my constituents.
Yeah.
But you learn quick because you have no choice, and you're there every day, and you make the most of each day.
But it's also that kind of environment that is conducive to learning quickly, right? I mean, there's so many things happening.
You're on the go 24/7.
Exactly.
Like my days, sometimes I would have no breaks until 8 o'clock at night when
And also the fact that you're not there alone, right? You have a team of whatever, how many you were, 170 MPs, 160 MPs. You get to learn so many things from so many people that were there, you know, before you.
Yeah.
So that kind of helped you to be kind of in that environment. And
Of course. There were some MPs who, from the get-go, sat down with me and said, look, you're new. I want to help you, like, settle down. So this is the stuff you need to work on in your constituency, and this is what you need to work on in Ottawa, and these are 2 different things. And, you know, just trying to walk me through the steps, the beginning. So that definitely helped for sure.
That's great. Talk to me a little bit about Saint-Laurent. Obviously, this is where you live, this is where you grew up, this is where you're born.
Yeah.
Some of the challenges that you got to work on in the last 2 years.
So this is obviously a very diverse riding. We have a lot of people who are coming into the country, and Saint-Laurent is where they come right away.
Yeah.
Actually, quite a few Lebanese people have told me, like, we call Saint-Laurent Saint-Liban. And this is something, they know Saint-Laurent before they even know about Canada.
Yeah.
It's, you know, they know that they can get services here because a lot of people speak their language. They know that this is a place that they want to come to. So one of the biggest issues that we do deal with is immigration. Our office gets hundreds and hundreds of cases every year. And you know, luckily I have a great person working with us in immigration who has been working with the House of Commons for the last 15 years. So having that kind of experience in my office has definitely helped us help our constituents. You know, we would speak regularly to Minister Hussein and try to see what could be done for the people that we wanted to reunite with their families. And when we saw that it was a good case and we saw that there was good reason for them to come to the country and that they wanted to work hard and all of that, we really pushed for them. That's just one. Obviously, we saw that Saint-Laurent has a huge industrial section.
Yeah, it's one of
There's
the biggest
more,
industrial parks in Quebec.
Yes,
Yeah.
there are more jobs in Saint-Laurent than there are people. So as much as I'm here and my goal will always be to represent the people, I can't, close my eyes to the fact that I have huge industries in the riding, small businesses, the works.
Yeah.
So another big thing that I was doing is working with Minister Baines, and economic development, and just trying to get as many companies, especially the startups in my riding, as much funding as we could possibly get them. So that was important because it created jobs, right? And it allowed a lot of these companies to get with the times with regards to staying competitive in their fields and making sure that Canada stays at the top.
Yeah. You mentioned about Saint-Laurent being a stepping stone for new immigrants, and there's recently a new elected government in Quebec that has a completely different view of immigration. How has that affected everything in the last year, where immigration seems to have been slowed down quite a bit there?
Well, I'm hearing it more than ever from the companies, actually. In my riding, there's a huge labor shortage.
For sure.
And companies are constantly complaining that they cannot find enough employees to continue what they're doing. You know, we know that we have a very low unemployment rate, which is great. We know that we've created, or Canada has created, over 1 million jobs in the last 4 years, which is fantastic. At the same time, you need people to work in these companies in order for them to be successful and to continue what they're doing. So it's a huge problem when Quebec closes its doors or throws out the files of all of these people who were being processed.
Well, especially I guess that it's just uncertainty, right? I mean, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Are they going to keep the existing files? Are they not going to keep the existing files? Are they going to transition everything to a new to the new system or not? I mean, this uncertainty, like you said, I mean, is impacting the businesses at a large degree there.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously the families who have been hoping that this would work out for them.
For sure.
It's unfortunate.
I want to talk to you because the campaign, at the time that we're recording, is officially started, and I know that you're a member of the Standing Committee on the Status of Women. And I need to ask you to give me your thoughts on this whole abortion question that has surfaced in the last month or so.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't think that anybody should have the right to tell a woman what to do with her body.
Yeah.
You know, whether I personally would or wouldn't is not the question here. I've been a high school teacher. I know that some of my students have unfortunately fallen pregnant.
Yeah.
And if they didn't have the option to continue living their lives as, you know, teenagers and then eventually young adults and learning from their mistakes, then I don't know if I would want to be part of that world. You know what I mean? Like, it's I've seen some scary things already just from being a high school teacher with regards to a lot of my female students, and it's just ridiculous that
what's the position now officially, the party? You're close to any suggestions from any MP to tabling a private member's bill to revisit this question?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy with what our position is right now. I'm happy that women get the right to choose. That men can't come in and say, no, I absolutely don't want the abortion to take place.
Yeah.
I think that's ridiculous. You know, it's a lot is implied when a woman falls pregnant. Her body completely changes. Her, the responsibility that she has afterwards is huge. There are women who get raped and unfortunately, become pregnant afterwards. What are we saying? What message are we sending if we open this question and make it illegal for women to have an abortion? It's ridiculous.
Do you think it's going to become an issue during the campaign?
I think it needs to be brought to the front. I think it needs to be clear.
Because the positions aren't very clear, right? Even from the conservatives.
It's pretty clear. Andrew Scheer is a very right-wing socially. And I definitely think that it needs to be addressed because women need to know what rights could possibly be taken away from them if a conservative government were to be elected.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely think it's a valid thing to discuss during an election period, and we need to be aware because obviously the results of the election could drastically impact our lives.
So the campaign has started, and already things seem to be overshadowed, especially a social issue as important as this, by the whole issue on SNC-Lavalin. Andrew Scheer just went off the gate right away with that. Do you think that that's going to set the pace during this campaign?
I don't think so, and the reason why I don't is because, look, this issue came to light a few months ago, and then the ethics commissioner came out and gave his thoughts as well, and I know that in the polls it didn't really affect us very much. I think that people understand why the Prime Minister took the position that he did. He was protecting Canadian jobs, thousands and thousands of Canadian jobs, and not only that, but what she was claiming when she says that, when Jody Wilson-Raybould says that, he was interfering in a way that he shouldn't have. I mean, he told me that he was the Member of Parliament for Papineau and this was important in his riding. Every MP should have the right to go to any minister and say what exactly how the decisions will be impacting their ridings. If he wasn't going to do that for Papineau, then how is Papineau being represented? They elected him for a reason, right? They're the ones who put his name on the ballot. There's absolutely nothing wrong with going to your minister and saying, look, I'm the Member of Parliament for Saint-Laurent and this decision could drastically take away this many jobs in my riding, and it's, can we look at other options? Are there other options that we could explore? And I don't think that he was in the wrong in this case at all.
Because you mentioned the polls. I mean, it certainly hasn't. It doesn't seem to have impacted his support, at least in Quebec. But in the other provinces, it's a completely different story, right? So
not Ontario. I mean, Ontario, the Conservatives are not doing so well. There are other reasons for that, but I do think that we're doing decent. I mean, I think we're doing pretty well. And I think that people, the closer and closer we get to an election, people are going to realize how they've been personally affected by the changes that our government have brought into place.
Speaking of changes, and specifically with your writing as well, I want to talk a little bit about marijuana legalization, because that was obviously a main topic in the last campaign's platform. Justin Trudeau went through with that, and I know for a fact that in ridings that have more or less huge concentration of ethnic communities, it's a very touchy issue. I don't know if people have been talking to you about that when you've been doing your door to door, you've been meeting citizens in the last.
It's been brought up, but not overwhelmingly.
And in general, what do you think the reaction is?
I mean, I think some people are satisfied with it and others aren't. Just like
but specifically, like in Saint-Laurent, what are people's reactions to that?
Again, it really varies. But in Saint-Laurent, I have knocked on a few doors where people are like, "Look, we're not happy with the fact that it was legalized." And the argument that I throw back is, again, I've been a high school teacher. I was teaching secondary 2 students. I asked all of my students, I taught the entire grade, I asked all of my students if they had ever done it or if they knew somebody their age who had done it, and every single kid put their hand up. At least they knew somebody their age who had done it, whether it was them or not. And this was before it became legalized. And that just goes to show you that this was already something that was a problem and that the current system before was not working. So if you're not going to try to do things to change certain things, then, I don't see a problem in trying to change it.
Because, see, the issue wasn't really in terms of the accessibility to the marijuana, because like you said, I mean, the youngsters already have access to it if they want to. It's more controlling having some sort of control over it, and more importantly, in the quality of the. Well,
that's obviously why they did it, right? Obviously, accessibility was one thing, because now, it's a lot more punishable if a youngster does have it on him. If we find someone sold marijuana to a young person, that person can go to prison and that person can be fined. So I think that we are still protecting young people with these laws.
Now, of course, Quebec throws you guys the curveball and they increase the age to 21. What's the reaction there?
That each province and each municipality does have the right to do what they want.
Isn't there an issue somewhere? Because the more, we're talking about accessibility to marijuana, and there's obviously case studies that have proven that the youngsters that smoke marijuana obviously impact their brain development by the time they're in their 20s. So there was this huge wave of controversy that came out of Quebec when they decided to raise the age to 21, because from whatever age the kids are, sorry, let me just merge over here. From whatever age the kids are, have access to marijuana, up until the age of 21, what are they stuck with over here? They're stuck with the garbage.
Well, the thing is, again, like, we're regulating it. We're making sure that people have better strains of marijuana, but at the same time, we're punishing people for selling it to youngsters, right? So if it is done illegally for young people, they're going to get caught. And look, it's what was already done before, right? It's not like it's changing anything. Yeah. Yes, Quebec could sit there and raise the age, but before it was illegal altogether.
Yeah.
So
tell me a little bit about Bill 21. I know that Justin came out today. Justin, I'm acting like I know the guy because I do. Justin Trudeau. He came out today and basically he said that they wouldn't get involved with Quebec's Bill 21. How do you see Bill 21 in terms of the human rights aspect of it?
Well, when it came out, I rallied against it.
Mm-hmm.
But
the fact that the federal government, if ever the Liberals come in, you won't be challenging that.
I don't think so. I think that it's unfortunately up to the province, and if they've created this law, I think that it's probably going to stay. It was challenged. It's still being challenged, and hopefully at one point,
Yeah, the argument is that they're challenging based on the whole aspect of the notwithstanding clause, and if it's applicable, right? And that's where they're implying that the federal government might come in and say that.
That's what Yeah. But I'm not sure exactly. It's obviously not my decision in the end. Yeah. We are the party of the charter, and we do believe in human rights, and we do believe that everybody should have their rights respected with regards to their religion. And it's very unfortunate right now that there's a shortage of teachers, and that a lot of very qualified young women are basically not able to go back to school this year, and are looking for jobs outside of Quebec. It's really sad that's
you have quite a bit of population, the Middle Eastern population, the Muslims. Has anything come back to you?
It did in the beginning, before the law was made official. People were asking what I thought they should do to stand up against. And so I gave them a few recommendations, and I told them they have my support. Again, I stood up and I made sure that I attended a few rallies and spoke against it as much as I could. It even made the news. The leaders of different parties had stuff to say, but whatever.
Tell me a little bit. I want to talk to you about the platform. Your platform isn't available yet. Obviously, at some point during the campaign, we'll get to see it, and especially the budgeting and the cost analysis. You've obviously been briefed as a candidate. Tell me a little bit. What can we expect the Liberals to campaign on?
Well, we know that the environment is a huge preoccupation right now. Not only for, just everybody is quite preoccupied about it. They should be anyways. There's one particular party that isn't as much, but let's not go there. So definitely you can expect to see a lot on that. You can expect to see more on infrastructure. We're going to continue to try to create jobs. We're going to continue helping the middle class, and that's what we're going on, right? Housing affordability, middle class, environment, things that are going to help families make ends meet, and that are going to, continue being a huge support for a lot of our population.
How do you convince your electors to get behind you and support you once again when, there's certain big promises that were made in 2015 that weren't kind of followed through? I'm thinking of, the electoral reform, the pipeline, the Trans Mountain wasn't part of the platform, but that is stalling. And the one thing that I think that you guys are going to get attacked on a lot during the campaign is just the budget. How off it's been from what Justin Trudeau was saying, right? He was campaigning on, doing a mild deficit and balancing the books for 2019, and he's going into this campaign with an accumulated deficit of about $70 billion. How do you convince your constituents that the commitments that are going to be made during this campaign, you're going to stick through them and to get them behind you again to support you?
Well, I think that over 90% of the promises made were kept. I think we have one of the best records of kept promises in a very long time. So I think that's something we need to focus on as well. Yeah, maybe a couple of things weren't done, but I think most governments end with many things not being done, and we don't have that many things that haven't been done. So I think that we've kept well to our promises on the whole. So it's not, I don't find it very difficult to convince them. Actually, when I go to the doors, obviously I'm in a stronghold, but people just keep telling me, thank you for what you've done for our family. Thank you for, we notice at the end of the month the help that we're receiving, because we have 4 children that we're raising, and it definitely helps us. I think that's what people feel at the end of the day. And so, not only that, but again, the economy is doing well. Especially in Quebec.
It is doing well, but there was an analysis that came out a couple of weeks ago that was suggesting that the U.S. is probably going to go into a recession next year, and obviously that's probably going to have an impact in Canada. Mm-hmm. So regardless of the fact that the economy has been doing well in the last 4 or 5 years, which is spectacular because you're going into a campaign now with record numbers, right, in employment, and all that, but assuming that in a year from now we're going to suffer the impacts of a potential recession in the U.S., having a deficit of $70 billion is a huge deal, though. You know what I mean? It's going to...
We still have a low debt-to-GDP ratio.
Yeah.
I think we're doing very well. We've had the most growth in all of the G7 countries. I think that all of those things should take space as well in people's minds, and they should understand that, we do have a deficit. We never said that we were going to fully balance the budget. In fact, we said we would be investing because it was a time to invest. And so we invested in infrastructure, we invested in people. And that's why we're at a deficit. But at the end of the day, we're growing as well. More people have joined the middle class. More people are working than were before. And this is obviously helping to stimulate the economy.
Mm-hmm. Super. We're going to close it up. I know that you're busy. The campaign has officially started. Any last words? What kind of message do you want to give out there to your constituents?
I would like to just say, obviously the Liberal Party and our government has done a lot of great work. And we'd like to continue that great work. We'd like to continue supporting and helping families. We'd like to continue helping grow the middle class. And we have a huge plan on the environment, a plan that is going to work. And I think that we cannot afford a conservative government at this point in time. So I'm really hoping people take into account, the environment when they're going to the ballots, and, the fact that the child poverty rate has gone down drastically since we got elected, by 40% actually. These are really important issues that people need to remember when they go to the polls.
Thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good luck.